Class, in this recording, we're going to talk about how to study now that you are going to be taking anatomy and physiology in an online environment. First thing, the biggest thing that you need to do is schedule time. Online students that take time to build in a schedule to log in every day and spend 2 hours at this time of day always working on their online classes are much more successful than online students who take the approach of saying, well, class is online, so I don't need to focus on it right now. I can procrastinate. Please don't do that. Um, in this class, we're going to be taking the time, Ms. Laundrich and I are going to be taking the time to continue posting materials on a weekly basis. So here we have the week 9 materials that will be alive in just a little bit for you. And as we're looking at these week 9 materials, something that's going to be different now is instead of me just posting hour and 10-minute long lecture recordings, we're now going to have the lecture recordings broken up into smaller bits because the class is now online. I'm also taking the time to highlight specifically, like right here we have, let me zoom in for you. Right here we have some A&P Flicks videos, and occasionally I'll find really well done videos on YouTube that I'll hyperlink onto our class website for your viewing pleasure. So please download the presentations like you normally would, and to find those red letters or the red words you need to fill in the blanks, watch the lecture recordings. Now, if you're anything like me, watching lecture recordings is super painful. So, when I have to watch a lecture recording online, I never watch it in real time. Nobody has time for that. So here's what you can do. Within the settings on YouTube, first, turn on closed captions. Secondly, go to playback speed. I like at least 1.25, preferably 1.5, if the person has a slower speech cadence. And then you can start watching your lecture recording. And if you have 1.5 playback speed, an 11-minute recording, well, the person sounds kind of like a chipmunk. Also, you can get to the lecture recordings a heck of a lot quicker. And when you need to, you can pause, go back, and replay those tricky details that you miss. So that's one key tip for studying online. Another key tip for studying online is focusing on your learning resources. We no longer are able to meet in labs. We no longer have any learning models to work with. However, we're still going to be giving you the lab objectives. So here are these things that you need to focus on. For instance, we have a bunch of different muscles that you need to learn for the human body and the action of those muscles. Note, only give those actions. And at the bottom of our lab objective sheets, we're still giving you review questions. However, now that we no longer have open lab, to find answers to the review questions, you need to click on the answer key to optional review questions that we're hyperlinking for you online. So for those of you who choose to do the review questions in your laboratory manual, you can still look up the answers if you want to. And for those of you who maybe forgot to bring your lab manual home, don't worry. You have access to an online lab manual. So if you go to the Mastering A&P website, you can click on Pearson eText. Wait for it. Wait for it. My internet is not as fast as I wanted. Still waiting for it. Okay, while that's loading in the background, I'm going to show you some other things that you have available. If you go to My Study Area, you have on the Pearson website, made specifically to match your lab manual, you have Practice Anatomy Lab and Practice Anatomy flashcards. Click on those Practice Anatomy flashcards. You can click on anatomical models and then click on the body systems you're interested in. So I just clicked on the muscular system. So let's say muscular system upper limb, muscles of the upper limb. And then you can go back to that lab objective worksheet. Let's see here. Muscles of the upper limb, triceps brachii, brachialis, brachioradialis. And then when you go back to this website, you can click on the specific muscles that you need to identify. I'm not going to take the time to click on all of them. Create a review quiz. And now you can see pictures of plastic models that are remarkably similar to the ones that we have in lab. And you can practice naming your models. Unfortunately, this is not a fill-in-the-blank version like those of you who have been using Quizlet have been. It gives you an opportunity to practice identifying these muscles on the model that you would have normally had in lab. Those of you who don't have the lab manual, you can click on the e-text, and it's now finally loaded. And you can go to the table of contents by clicking the 3 bars in the corner, and then you can find the exercise in question that you need to focus on. For instance, we're looking at gross anatomy of the muscular system, identification of human muscles. Then we can click here. It's loading. Oh, my Lanta. Bandwidth issues have been huge for me lately. And you can have digital pages or your lab manual in digital form. So even if you forgot your lab manual and don't have access to a hard copy, you still have access to a digital copy. You also have access to flashcards that are curated by the owners, or excuse me, by the company who made your lab manual. Something else you also have access to is some really great digital histology. There are histology photographs included in your lab manual, but if you click on the hyperlinks that we've made available for you, it's loading. And you go to the bottom of some of those hyperlinks, we now include a bunch of histology objectives or histology websites next to the optional review. Here we go. So we have how to use a histology website. Digital Histology is a new website we haven't made available to you. HistologyGuide.com is a website we have previously made available to you. For those of you who are just starting to use the Digital Histology website, I recommend you click on the link to watch a video that shows you how to set it up. Here is that video on YouTube. I've already preloaded it for you, and I'm not going to play it for you. It's a fairly short video. And then you can go to the digitalhistology.org website. You can go to look at the specific tissue types you want by kinds of tissue, by organ system, and you can create your own custom quizzes based on what you need to know. So as we're looking at this, let's go to muscle and let's do skeletal muscle. And as you're looking at this website, it looks like 19 different slides of skeletal muscle tissue. And while we're looking at it, you can click on the objectives to highlight the specific things, or you can click on the specific objectives over here to have them highlighted on your slides. And as you scroll through your slides, you can find different views of the same objectives on different microscope slides. So this is an excellent resource you have available. If you go to the histologyguide.com website, which has been previously available to you, I need to highlight it for you right now, in that you can see multiple views of the same tissue type. So you're not limited to just that single image that's in your lab manual. I can zoom in on a section of tissue and it reloads at higher resolutions, kind of like when you zoom in on Google Maps. And I can just keep zooming in until I can get to 400 times total magnification and have a very high resolution and high focused or high resolution and zoomed in image of whatever tissue type I'm looking at. These are two excellent resources. Ms. Laundrich and I are going to be using the photographs in your lab manual, the photographs from the ALS flashcards, and the histology photographs from the 2 websites that we've linked to you to create images that you're going to use for your lab exams. While you're studying for your lab exams, please focus on these websites I've highlighted because these are the websites that we're going to use to create most of the images that will be on your online or digitized lab exams. There are going to be some instances where we don't like the photographs that are in your lab manual or on the PALS website. So in those situations, we've been going into the lab and taking photographs, giving you better photographs. I want to emphasize that we still want to mimic the face-to-face experience as much as possible, but we're making accommodations for the fact that it is now going to be online. Speaking of taking an online assessment, I also need to emphasize for you, all assessments are now open book. You have all lecture and lab exams are now open book, and it's an expectation that you take these exams in an open book environment. I need to show you a trick. For those of you on a Windows computer or a Mac computer, so any kind of a laptop computer, you can have multiple windows open, and you can either Alt-Tab on Windows or Command squiggly line if you're using a Macintosh operating system. And this is smart way to take your lab exam. When you're taking your lab exam, you should highlight, if you're concerned about spelling, highlight the specific objective from your lab objective worksheet, Control-C, copy it, Alt-Tab over to the window, and then in whatever window you're at, maybe it's the blank for the lab exam, Control-V, and paste that term into the answer space for your fill-in-the-blank lab exams. That is the smart way to go about it to minimize spelling errors. We're still going to be using lab objective worksheets to limit what you're studying, to give you some guidance, and also to focus on spelling and terminology, which are still going to count on your lab exams, lab exam number 2 and lab exam number 3. So this has been a longer than I anticipated recording, kind of giving you an idea of how to study for A&P now that we're in the online environment. If you have any questions, please post them on the course discussion board or shoot me an email. Happy studies.